Welcome to New Tracks Live. New Tracks Live is the weekly meetup of the New Tracks modeling community that provides unique mentoring opportunities to enhance your modeling skills by connecting with talented modelers and manufacturers from around the globe who generously share their knowledge and artistic expertise. Build your confidence, refine modeling techniques, and share your projects with a supportive community of fellow modelers, all while enjoying the world's most rewarding hobby. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Zoom and YouTube for the live meetup. Missed a program? No problem. Individual show segments are uploaded to YouTube for convenient on-demand viewing. Be sure to connect with the New Tracks community by joining the New Tracks Facebook page, where you can interact with other modelers and see what they are modeling. Visit our website at www.newtracksmodeling.com to register to receive Zoom links for the weekly meetup and get more modeling information. And now, here is the host of tonight's New Tracks Live, Phil Edholm.
Hi, welcome to this evening's New Tracks Live. This is March 25th, so kind of the end of March, and a great opportunity for some modeling together. New Tracks Live is actually the live weekly meetup of the New Tracks community. You can also get together on our New Tracks Facebook page. There you can share your modeling, talk with other community members, get inputs, etc. Both New Tracks Modeling, the live and Facebook community, as well as the New Tracks Mentoring Scholarship, are supported by those donors who donate to the New Tracks Mentoring Inc. Nonprofit. So before we start tonight, we want to run a little video that say thank you to our 3 diamond sponsors for 2026.
New Tracks Mentoring thanks the 2026 New Tracks Mentoring Platinum donors, Brennan's Model Railroading, the Amherst Railway Society, and the Great Scale Model Train Show. Platinum donors support the New Tracks Mentoring Scholarship as well as New Tracks Live. For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering products focused on the O-scale market, including Brennan's Better Ballast and a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Brennan's also has craftsman kits with complete photographically illustrated instructions to create an outstanding model. The Frank Ellison Tribute series of kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level using modern methods and materials. See the complete line of products on the Brennan's Model Railroading website. Use the QR code to visit. The Amherst Railway Society has been bringing modelers in the New England area together for 70 years. The Society sponsors the Railroad Hobby Show, held each January at the Eastern States Exposition Fairgrounds in West Springfield, Massachusetts. It is America's largest railroad-themed trade show. The event occupies 4 buildings on the fairgrounds and draws 25,000 visitors. The show has received the Walther Showmanship Award in recognition of promoting interest in railroads and model railroad hobbies. The Society sponsors other events and operates the Amherst Beltline's modular layout. Use the QR code to visit. The Great Scale Model Train Show is the largest train show in the Mid-Atlantic region. For 40 years, the Great Scale Model Train Show has been held 3 times annually at the Maryland State Fairgrounds in Timonium, Maryland. The events are generally held the first weekend of February, the second weekend of April, and the last weekend of October. Held in 3 halls, the train show features vendors, layouts, clinics, and special activities. The Great Scale Model Train Show features over 600 exhibitors and vendors. Use the QR code to visit.
Thanks to our diamond sponsors for helping us keep the New Tracks modeling going for 2026, 2027, and beyond. Anyway, before we start today, let's also thank our brass donors. We have actually 5 brass donors for 2026. Loco-Fi, Santa Clarita Modeling, the builders of the cradles for your car, O-Scale Central, Millhouse River Studios, as well as Kershaw Craftsman Kits. So thanks to all of them for supporting New Tracks Mentoring and helping us support our scholarship, where this year on the scholarship, we'll actually be awarding at least three $2,500 scholarships. So we're actually getting signups for that. We have some signups. It's actually going to be an exciting year for the scholarship, with 3 scholarships will be awarded this year. So this is our agenda for today. We're going to start off with Jamie Bothwell talking a little bit from the S-scale perspective. David Urrutia, who is going to talk to us about a new company he started, Hot Hobby Roadscapes, where he's doing 3D printed roadscapes and other things for road work. And then we're going to go to, this week is our MyBuilds. Chris Coarse will have a number of MyBuilds around rolling stock this week, so that'll be exciting. David Malott has put together some videos of his modular group, his local modular group, and we'll have that kind of to close as our layout visit for the day. And if we have time, we may have a session from me, but probably not. I think we're probably going to be good on time, or we'll probably stop just at where we are at. So with that, just to point out again, April 1st, we will be starting a build with Bill Banta of his new Oyster Point Depot kit. You've done Bill Banta's kits. They're really quite nice. They turn out quite well finished. There's a 20% discount using the discount code Oyster. You can see the prices there for the 2 kits after the discount, and $12.50 for shipping inside the US. You can use these 2 tiny URLs to go look at the kits, either in HO scale with Oyster-HO or Oyster-O for the O scale kit. So with that, the last thing, a little bit of agenda for us is, if you'd like to become a NewTrack mentor, just use the tiny URL NTM present, or just click on the QR code and basically come on there. There's a little forum, and tell us what you want to present and talk about, and we'll get you onto the program. So with that, our first segment tonight is our S-scale segment. And this is one of our donors has been the S-scale group. And so we're going to go ahead and run a little video about S-scale.
American Models, manufacturers of quality S-scale equipment for more than 40 years. We have 13 types of locomotive.
Wrong one. S-scale, the S-scale, at the S-scale.
The NASG.
NASG one.
Are you looking for something a little different in your model railroading? The National Association of S-Gaugers suggests you take a look at S-scale. An S-scale model is just 36% longer than an HO model, but it's 2.5 times the volume. The larger size translates to increased ease of maintenance, more durable details, and improved electrical and mechanical reliability. S-scale modelers use accurately proportioned wheels and track systems with KD-style couplers. Exceptional S-scale models and layouts are being built in both standard and narrow gauge. Locomotives and rolling stock are available from a number of manufacturers in both ready-to-run and kit form. Equipment is available both new and through an active secondary market. There are numerous manufacturers of track, buildings, vehicles, and details, both ready-to-run and in kit form, available for those who love to build. And many S-modelers enjoy kit bashing and scratch building in the larger size S offers. To learn more, visit the website of the National Association of S-Gaugers. Here you will find the history of the scale, information about clubs in your area, see layouts and connect with current manufacturers and online groups, plus much more. In short, the website has everything you'll need to explore model railroading in S-scale today. Come on board and visit soon.
So that was great. A little video there. So now, Jamie Bothwell, would ask you to jump in and tell us what we're going to talk about this evening.
Okay, well, I thought maybe I would give you a quick update on a few projects that I mentioned earlier in some of my earlier segments, just to show you I've been, continuing along there. So that's basically what we're going to do. And then there's a couple other newer highlights to throw in there. So let me see if I share here. And where is that? That's this one. Click that. I'll share that. And we'll make a slideshow. And there we go. All right. Let's see. I'm going to get rid of you guys. Nope, that doesn't work. Okay, well, we'll just go along. Okay, so news and views S scale. This is what we're up to today. So again, updates on some previous projects, plus a couple of new things. Okay, so you may recall I was building a model of Mifflin Tower. And this, I put the first layer of trim along the top of the walls. There it is clamped down with a clothespin on the sort of the side of the bay window. And then, I got all the way around the tower. And then the trim is sort of a stepped affair. There's sort of three steps to it, and this is the first step, and I gotta put on the other two steps yet. So let's see what we got if we do that. All right, so there is the tower. It's awaiting shingles. You can see that this patch right here. That's the trim that I just added in the front. All the windows have been fitted up and painted the nice red. I did cut plastic windows, plastic for the glass of the windows, but I didn't want to put it in yet because I was still trimming up the paint. So the window glass is all set to go. I just didn't want to add it yet because I didn't want to get paint on it. So the other thing I have to do is I have to put in, I don't know what, architecturally, I don't know what you call it, but there's a little along the bottom, like the bottom edge of the bay window, and then around the building at that height is a little sort of, you know, false roof or whatever, like it's, another roof. I don't entirely understand what it's there for other than decorative, but maybe keeps a little rain off the lower stories or something. But anyway, that's a feature that I cut wood to do it, but I think it's a little too wide, and so it would make it stick out a little too far. So I got to trim that down. That's the next project on this particular build. Um, I'm kind of toying with the idea that maybe that the bay window roof is not sticking out far enough from the building. So part of me wants me to cut it off and put it on again a little bit further out from the building. But as you can see, I did manage to get some shingles on the place, and so um, I'm a little leery about removing that because I've got all the shingles on there, and I don't want to have to redo that whole piece. In theory, I could cut it off and just stick it on again, just trim it carefully and put it back on again. The shingles, as you can see, are blue painter's tape. I run them through the laser and make them myself. I had this kit down at the RPM in Valley Forge. We'll get to that in a few minutes. I had it down at the RPM at Valley Forge this last weekend, and it was, I was hoping to have it a little more done. I'm always hoping to have everything a little more done, but this is as good as I could do. But I put on the sign, I put that, there are no commercial parts in this. It's all stuff that I made. You can kind of make out the floor inside the building. So I'm toying with the idea of putting some minor interior detail in because the windows are so big and you can see in so well. So the floor is actually, like wood planking. I'm not real, it's scribed by the laser, but it looks like wood planking. So, but the shingles are, as I said, blue painter's tape. It's all cut and then, trimmed and put on, and it's sort of self-sticking, obviously, because it's made out of tape. So this is the tower sign, and again, I didn't get it painted yet, but it's going to be painted the typical. The letters and the edging are yellow, and then the interiors are red, sort of like the color of a Coke can. You can see the little mounting lugs. I included those on the sign. It's kind of fun. Now, if you're a Pensy expert, you know that the lettering should have serifs on it. And they're actually there if you look at it in the drawing, but the laser just burns them off. They're just too small. So the laser burns those off. And I had to adjust it I had to run 3 or 4 of these before I got the lugs to come out right. So that was a bit of a challenge. So anyway, what do we got? Okay, so this is where we left off on laying track the last time. So I had one line down of my double track main line here. Again, that's 3 feet of track because it's whatever the length of a rail is. So that's where we were left off last time. So this time now you can see that we've got 2 rails laid. In addition to putting down the two rails, two tracks of, so four rails. In addition to putting down the two tracks, tried to run a train on it, and I noticed that the gauge right about the very bottom of the picture was way, way too wide. So I went through and unsoldered. Again, I'm using the methodology of soldering the rail onto printed circuit board ties. You can see every sixth tie is a little copper colored because it's got a copper clad top on it. So I went through and I unsoldered all the, one rail on the one side and then re-gauged it. I pretty much had to take up the whole rail because by the time I moved the one end of it, I had to move the other end of it. So, soldered that all back down, put down the other two rails, check those for gauge, and you can see that I have electrical connections to them. They're when I feed electricity through them, I can get the light to light up. This next slide, that's supposed to be the GG1 running down the track, but I was not successful in getting my little movie to load into my Google Drive, so I gotta work on that a little bit. But that was you're supposed to be looking at the GG1 coming toward you and backing away, but it's there, it moves. You're just gonna have to trust me. Like I said, if you look at the light, I showed you the light. It really does conduct electricity. There was a short or two that I had to work out, so you gotta go with that, and it's all good. So hopefully more progress there. Okay, so another thing, I don't know if I brought this up earlier or not. I have a friend who's modeling Malone, New York. I'm not entirely sure why he decided Malone, New York, but that's what he decided. He loves the Rutland, he loves the New York Central, and so he wanted to model Malone, New York. And so they have this freight station there. This is an actual photo of the building. It's been torn down since. I don't remember how old this picture was, but it's cut stone. It was built long enough ago that the outside of it is cut stone. It's not bricks. And if you look at it really close, what you see is that there's a large layer of cut stone, and then instead of like what almost looks like a mortar line is not mortar, but a thinner layer of stone. So it's kind of like big stone, little stone, big stone, little stone. And then you can see the variations in the color. And so we were debating just how to make all that work. So let's see, click that. So that was my first attempt at a window. Again, this is just a practice. I got the whole wall drawn, but I wanted to see how the windows were going to work out. And so that's, there's the middle piece here is the cutout from, you cut the window itself out and then put it back in from behind so that there's a little depth between here and here. And then these outer bricks here, they're also added onto the top. But they don't, the windows stick in farther than they stick out at the side. So like this is a bigger gap in here or distance in if you go from that edge in there to what's over here. And so again, we're all just estimating this from pictures, but we've decided that it's about 2 inches in here and about an inch out on there. So that's what we're going with. So then I made the one, and I decided I could do better by putting the bricks in on the backside. So that's what you're looking at here. Here are the layers. Okay, so this is the wall layer right here. And then glued onto the wall layer is the series of arch bricks. Those are all formed. So they're all like an S-scale inch thick sticking out from the wall. And then here is the end piece that was cut out of here, right? So this, I'm reusing the piece that I cut out the window, of course. Then the window itself is a separate piece. And then this piece of wood, this is half as thick. This is MDF. It's 1/8 inch MDF. And this is a 16th inch piece of basswood. And so what I do is I cut this piece out of here. I stick it into the basswood, and then it sticks up from the basswood 2 inches. So then when you put this piece in from the back again, it sits in about 2 inches, and it makes the whole thing about the right depth, plus the windows. And we're trying to decide what these little holes on the windows go. I think maybe what you're looking at is a storm window, and that's some kind of like method of grabbing the storm window and putting it on and off. But as I like to say, kind of like the lugs on the tower sign, it's just bragging. I did it because I can. So there's the whole thing all together. And again, I'm trying to simulate the different colors of the stone. I'm having pretty good luck, I think, with this. These are sort of, it's all done with acrylics. So these are sort of just thin acrylics, and when I put them on a little thicker, they look a little darker than maybe they're supposed to. This is a bit of a redder color. Again, I'm kind of experimenting with colors. This whole thing's just, it's just a practice. So we'll see how this all comes out. And of course, the window itself needs to be painted a color. I'm not entirely sure because I'm not a Rutland guy. There's a picture of it I have that it's painted red, but that's in it's post railroad usage. So I'm not sure if that's an accurate color. So I'll have to ask my friend what color to paint it and ship it off to him and see how he likes it. So anyway, but that's what I'm doing. And then, like I said, these colors in here I think are pretty decent, and I just got to kind of get the right balance of how many need to be what shade to get the whole thing going. So that was something I was working on. Like I said, I'm not sure if I showed any of the Malone Freight House before or not, but there's that. Okay. I had a friend out in Arizona. Maybe, yeah, I think it's Arizona. He was wondering where he had a picture of a Caboose stand where they were using it to sell Christmas trees. And he said, does anybody know where I can get a caboose like this? And I said, well, let me see what I can do. So I went into school the next day and I drew this up. It took me about an hour. It was over Christmas vacation. No, because I had it to him before that. I don't know. At some time, anyway, I had a spare hour and I drew it up and it didn't take very long. Oh, I know. I based it on a caboose that I had already drawn. So I had done a little bobber caboose. And so I just kind of changed the cupola around a little bit and burned one out for him and shipped it out to him. And he was quite pleased with it. And I was going to try to find a picture. He sent a picture back where he'd set the whole thing up with his Christmas trees and whatever, made a little stand out of it. But I can't find it. So anyway, I had to cut one to sort of test it out, and then I cut mine. I goofed it up, and both sides of the cupola were the same side, so that when you put the walls together, the cupolas were sort of at either end of the car. So obviously that wasn't going to work. So I had to go back and cut two more. So now I have two of them myself with no great use for them. And wait, what? Okay, so now there's two of them in the world. And that's what we got there. I don't know why this is in front of me. Okay, so anyway, so now I have two of them, and I don't have a real use for them. I keep calling them a hot dog stand. That's to me what I think they look like, hot dog stands. So, whatever. But that was a quick and dirty that I did up. So that was fun. Now I mentioned that I went down to the RPM in Valley Forge last weekend. That's about an hour south of me. And if you're not familiar with RPMs, it's Railroad Prototype Modelers. It's the guys who are very into very specific, they want to build the best model possible, So as far as the most detail and, very often they're very freight car oriented. So there's a lot of, just amazing detail that they put in their freight cars or whatever. So anyway, I wanted to go down and fly the S-scale flag, let them know that we're alive. So I took my tower down and I put it out, and I took that little window down from the Malone Freight House, and I met some of my friends down there, but I was the only one who brought in the S-scale model, so it was a good thing I did because we represented it. I repped S-scale down there, so. I had a couple more I would have brought, but I didn't. I should have looked for them the night before. I didn't do it. I just woke up the next morning and thought, I should take this and this and this. And then I was running around the basement trying to find them, and it just got too late and I left. So anyway, but here's one of the advantages of S-scale. See, I went into the vendor hall and I bought half of the S-scale models that were available there in the vendor hall. I bought half of them, right? So Fernaro and Camerlingo were there, and they had two of these kits, and I bought one of them. So that's a Pennsylvania Railroad GR gondola. Now, they've been marketing this kit for some number of years, and I have several more of them. And I keep telling them, I don't need the gun. I don't need any more of these. Make some new ones. But so I thought, well, just to support the scale, I'll buy another gondola. So now I have another one. I'm going to put this one in with my old timey freight cars because this thing dates back to the early 1900s. So I'm starting to amass a small collection of say 19 teens freight cars. And there's maybe a possible layout in the workings for that. That'll be a future a future video, I hope. So we'll have to see. All right. So that's about what I've got. I think that was it. Yep. Thank you very much. I'll stop the share. I noticed that there were a couple of comments in the chat. Anything that is it people asking me? Brick colors would make good use of Copic markers. Yeah, that would be a good idea, Bob. Maybe I'll try that. Bob's suggesting I use markers on the bricks, and that might be a good thing. So, all right. Oh, and Greg was going to suggest the same thing. So that might be good. I had a plan for, I'm a little rough with the let's chat. Okay, I'm a little rough with some of the bricks because I'm just painting them by hand, but I had an idea that when I did the whole wall, I would put like a strip of tape on the top of the row and a strip of tape on the bottom of the row, and then I could just go along and kind of, pick off the bricks one by one along a row, and I wouldn't get any, between the rows. The big ones aren't too bad. The small ones are a little, the tall brick is fairly easy to do, but the short brick is a little tough to get a paintbrush in there. So, but yeah, maybe a marker is a way to go. I'll have to look into it.
So, Jamie, I think the question we all were just dying to ask was, did you get a better deal than the $25 on the gondola that it was priced at on the sticker?
I did not haggle.
Ah, okay.
So that was that was the cash price. So I did pay cash. So I got the cash price. I didn't have to pay I didn't make a donation to the state of Pennsylvania, shall we say. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't haggle. I just said that's fine. I'll take it. So
Excellent. Well, super, Jamie. Thank you very much. It was a great little talk on things going on in your world in S scale. So with that, we'll jump on to our next segment. Before that, we wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about the New Tracks Mentoring Scholarship. Pretty exciting this year, and so we have a little video to run, and we'll talk about the scholarship.
The New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship is the only national scholarship for model railroaders from a volunteer nonprofit organization. For academic year 2025-26, we are awarding three $2,000 scholarships for model railroaders pursuing a STEAM degree. We hope to award a similar number of scholarships for the 2026-27 academic year. We believe it is critical to support the next generation of model railroaders. You can support the New Tracks Modeling Mentoring Scholarship by donating online using the Zephy platform or directly by check. All donations are tax deductible.
Oh, there we go. Thank you very much. So our next presenter is David Urrutia, and so David, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you to join me. Oh, that's not David. That meant we got to change there. There we go. There he is.
Me.
It's always a challenge, so you sometimes grab that. So, welcome, and we're going to talk a little bit about your company. He's going to talk to us about. You can see it in the background. It's Hot Hobbies. So he's going to talk about some of the products he's introducing. And David, why don't you go ahead and take it away and talk a little bit about how you did it? We met at a train show out here in California. He's located out here. So go ahead and throw it to you, and then we can have a little discussion afterwards.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Phil. It was great to meet at the show, and I've enjoyed following New Tracks since then, and all the great presenters that you guys have had, and I love the engagement from all the folks in the live stream. So let me get the share going here. All right, can you guys see that okay?
All good.
All right. Hey guys, so thanks for having me. I'm Dave Urrutia, and this is Hot Hobby Roadscapes. What I build are modern roads and industrial details and structures for scale modeling. I tend to focus on modern eras where rail, roads, and infrastructure meet. And my focus is on realism, usability, and really having fun with adding these elements into your builds. So I want things to look right, but to be easy to work with. So I've designed roadscapes for modelers who want that extra level of detail without adding a lot of complexity to their builds. And my interest in model railroading started a long time ago. So here's me in the 80s at Christmas with a layout that my dad built for me. And this was my first real exposure to trains. He had a lot of his trains hidden away in a chest in the garage. And at some point I had found them and he tried to protect them as much as he could. But ultimately he built this layout so I could have my own space to explore. And it was a fun little DC loop. And he set up some really cool buildings. You can see it's real simple. I think there were about 6 trees on the layout in the upper right, are 3 of them. And he just did a little bit of spray paint for the ballast and roads and brown for everything else. And it was the perfect setting for me to kind of imagine what that could be. And it really set, the tone for modeling, and it stuck with me. So a lot of time passed. I grew up, went off to school, got married, and started to get back into modeling. Then I had kids, and there was another break with that. So to Phil's point, I've just started the company back up in the past year, combining some of my design and product design expertise with filament-based 3D printing. So what you're seeing here is, with the exception of the vehicles, all the different types of models that I've printed. And these end up being the roads, the access points, industry, and all the elements that connect railroads. And this is what I really enjoy building. So for many of us, this is where it starts. Here's the little module that I was setting up because I don't have enough space at the moment for a full layout. So I wanted to start, as many people do, with modules. I think that's a really fun way to get into it. But just like when I started when I was young, it's hard to go past just some track, some locomotives and buildings to figure out how am I going to lay out the roads and infrastructure. And it's a familiar starting point that I think many of us have been at or may even be at, but we know something's missing. Once you start to add the roads and structure, this is when it starts to feel real. The trains, the buildings, vehicles, they all start to feel connected. Stops being separate pieces, and the layout starts to feel real. So these are roadscapes. This isn't just a few pieces. It's a full modular road system that I've designed and print in-house. There's straights, roads, straight curves, intersections, parking lots, most of the common elements of road that we would see across the United States from the mid-century to modern day. And the design is flexible, so you can mock these up, you can move pieces around, build temporary scenes, or use adhesive and lock it in once you're ready. So you really have a lot of flexibility with this instead of being locked into one or a few options. Now, I love all the builders in this group, and there's a lot of you who've probably never needed a solution like this because you build your own roads. And I love that. And that was always an area of focus that I wanted to dive into, but the commitment to saying, okay, I'm going to put a road here and putting the lines and weathering was always a really high barrier for me. So the modular system was something that I designed for my own layouts and started to produce for other people who were interested in that. And then you can start to see with some of these roads adding weathering and some of the details, and it really starts to become realistic. So these are just 2 of the parking lot plates that I have, and they've just done a very quick and dirty weathering pass with airbrush and adding some vehicles, and then the interlocking barriers that I have quickly turn this parking lot into a scene that we recognize. And everything I build in roadscapes really starts from a real world reference. I study actual industrial structures like this catwalk you can see in the upper left and design them in CAD using scaled dimensions. So the bottom left is the model that I designed just off of working from this. I didn't have any specific dimensions, but you can make some pretty clear assumptions from the size. So I take those and build them out and then use 3D printing to build the actual structures where you can see on the right. So while I modeled it in the 3 colors, the gray top, yellow sides and stairs, and black base area, I've, I'll print in one single color for prototyping and make sure everything's working, but the model is designed to print in these three colors. And one of the main focuses that I try to do with my models is make them so that you don't need glue or adhesive. I remember back to the cheapo train models that were the sort of press fit or snap together, and they were never high quality or detailed. But I appreciated how quickly you could get a model onto your layout and start to enjoy it. So part of what I'm doing with my models is to see if I can get them as close to layout ready, if not layout ready, right out of the pack, so people can add them to their scenes and start enjoying them instead of like I have, 10 different packs of model kits that are half finished or cool, but they're overwhelming and I just don't have the time to start. So this is what production looks like once design is ready. Getting to this point takes a lot of time, designing, testing, refining, sort of like you saw in the catwalk photo. But once it's dialed in, I can produce parts like this consistently. The big advantage here is detail. So these are 1/64th scale traffic barrels going up, or S scale, as we just saw with Jamie before. The big advantage here is detail, of course, and the scale of producing these, but I just can't paint lines like this anymore. My eyesight has started to go down, so the detail that I can deliver with multicolored prints is really exciting, and it again helps me get these models from production and onto the layout very quickly. And then the same process applies to everything I build. So what you're seeing here is a mix of different products from my HO scale line, from small details like barrels and cones to full structures like the secure facility entrance you can see on the upper left. They all build with the same level of consistency, and these product lines I've been expanding into 1/64th or S scale, as well as a bit into N as well. But it's really nice with 3D printing. I can get a whole lot of high quality prints at this point, something I just couldn't do a couple of years ago. So some of the machines that I've been using, I've been really impressed by, but it takes a lot of time to dial them in. And it takes a lot of time to print because I'm often using really small nozzles to get the detail at these really small scales. And ultimately, this is where it comes together, the road plates, the accessories, and the structures. So what you're seeing here, with the exception of the vehicles, the figures, and the building in the far back left, which I don't remember if that's a Walthers or which kit that is, but all the rest of this has been 3D printed and designed by me. Some of them are just prototypes I haven't released yet. Others are out now. But you can kind of get a sense of how all these things work together to set up a scene and detail that makes the scenes feel very authentic and scale, but also fun. And they're built to be handled. So if kids or grandkids want to join you on your layout, they aren't going to be something that they, just destroy by touching, or is so fragile that they've just got to, be behind the velvet rope. My goal is to make sure that everybody can enjoy their layouts, be dynamic with them, change their scenes around, and have parts that make that fun and quick to get onto the layout. And that carries through to interiors as well. So this is the interior of that locomotive shop that you saw before that I'm working on. You might notice some things are not totally consistent here, right? So the secondary framing you can see on the far wall is kind of a gray color, while it's a sort of charcoal black on the left. This is me experimenting and testing, but this entire model is built with not a drop of glue or adhesive. The parts snap fit together or slip around each other. So the CAD program has made it really nice in the high quality 3D printing for me to have, just such accuracy that I can make this fit, and it's easy to handle. And my goal with this is to create interiors that are as fun on the outside as they are on the inside. So you guys may have seen work with like Steve Hamby and others on Facebook who do a lot of cool interior work. I've been really inspired by that, and so I wanted to create details that would also work for the interior as well. So your full layout has detail. You can do lighting and enjoy end to end. So that's Roadscapes. Again, I'm really early in the process, but I have been really excited about the opportunities here, as well as just the community that's gone on from the model train show and seeing folks like you guys. There's so much inspiration out there, and yeah, excited to be a part of the hobby. So thank you guys for having me. My parts are available on Etsy, eBay, and Amazon. And if there's any questions, happy to answer those or look back over any slides.
Thanks, David. Any questions for David?
You're going to stay, David, are you going to stay with the HO and S?
You know, I really like N scale. Some of the limits, you know, I'm finding are you know, that's pushing the limits of my detail. I created some scale traffic cones, and they look incredible, but literally, if you sneezed on the layout, you'd probably, you know, blow them away. So, and then I do like a bigger scale. There were some folks at the train show were talking to me about, oh, the big challenge is just the scale and the filament cost and shipping ultimately. So N, HO, and S end up being really sort of in the sweet spot. And because that's been the bigger challenge also, is just striking a balance on how to make a reasonably priced product, but in high quality and nice detail. So
Nice.
yeah, if anybody's looking for other scales, let me know, because I just love scale modeling, and all scales are exciting, but of course it's, you know, never enough hours in the day.
Can you do multiple colors, David?
Yeah, yes, sir. All of these are actual printed in many multiple colors. So for instance, these are the HO scale barrels. That's how they come out of the print. So they're, you know, 3-color here with a black, orange, and gray there.
Nice.
Yeah, most
Thank
of
you,
my
Dave.
prints have multiple colors. At least.
Beautiful stuff.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
David, Eric Peterson, I wonder if you would do the locomotive shop racks in O scale.
You know, I'm definitely interested. I've been really excited about how this is coming out. I think one of the big challenges in O is the print bed size. So I may have to do it in multiple sort of platforms, but I do think that that's possible given some of what I've done here. This shop here is about maxing out my print bed now. So we're close to 340 millimeters or so. But another thing I thought about is finding a way to make them modular. So for instance, you could make a longer station if you needed, make it wider depending on your layout.
So David, this is Phil. I did, you know, 3D printed framing for a building. And one of the things you can do is where you bring pieces together, you can actually in the 3D print put little, you know, little holes on either side. It's really easy to get them perfectly aligned, and then you just throw in a piece of wire and then glue the pieces together and use epoxy. Mix just a little bit of epoxy, get one of those, and just put it on there, and it actually works out really well. It's a very strong joint, so you could do that pretty easily.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's the next step, is experimenting on how this kind of modular can expand to bigger sizes.
Right.
Yeah, if anybody's interested, or you know, feel free to reach out and message. I'm always interested in hearing what people are looking for, or what might be of interest, even if it just sparks some ideas.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much. That was a great little intro. So our next segment is, this week we have a MyBuild. Before we review the MyBuild, we have a little thank you to Dan Dowdy and the O Scale Resource Magazine. They've been sponsors of MyBuild for a long time.
Welcome to the world of scale, O and S railroading. We are your resource for all O and S scale modeling. Both our magazines are advertiser supported and free to read online, download as a PDF, or even print. All advertisers are hot linked to their website, so if you see something you like, just click. Please check out our websites for the current issues. All back issues available free for the O Scale Resource and the S Scale Resource magazines. And, if you are a manufacturer, distributor, or retail establishment, please contact us through our website for advertising opportunities.
Well, that's throw it over now to you, Chris. Time for this month's MyBuild. I think you got to focus on rolling stock, so
Yes,
we'll
indeed.
get excited about that. So take her away.
All right, thanks, Phil. Welcome everybody. Give it a second here. There we go. Maybe. Come on, there we go. Okay, now it should pop it to full screen. All right, welcome. As Phil mentioned, this month we are featuring rolling stock. And first up is Greg. Yep, Greg.
I'm there.
All righty.
Okay, let's roll. This is something that was a little different for me. I mostly do structures and then I built a layout, but most of my cars on the layout were plastic. And yeah, I had to put a lot of them together, but this is the first wooden car that I put together. I picked up a LaBelle wooden boxcar in HO scale. Just to get more experience with building a wooden car, I may have to build some of them in the future. Next slide. So this is an older car, and one of the things I had to get familiar with was a K-brake system. Most of the plastic cars that I put together, the brake system comes all as one or multiple pieces that you glue on the bottom, but I didn't know how a K-brake system was going to work. So I had to do some research, and that's one of the beauties of building this thing was it was a learning experience in a number of different ways. Next slide. So I managed to put together the semblance of a K-brake system. The kit came with Tishy brake parts, but for the underside, it was mostly just a cylinder and a couple of levers. So I had to do all of the rigging myself, and I had to make the little holders for the brake stays and stuff. But I managed to fumble through it. Next slide. And this is pretty much what I came up with, having all the rods and linkage and everything in place. And this was while I was still working on it. And then once it's all painted black, you can't see any of it anyway. So, but I know it's there, and if you look closely, you can see that it's there. Next slide. So once I got all that out of the way, the rest of it was just working with wood and building a structure, which I'm familiar with. And first you put on the blocks on the end and then the roof, and then you put the siding on, and this is having it clamped in place while the glue was drying. And just like any other wooden product, you have to make sure your corners are meeting up and everything's sanded just right and lining up correctly. But that part was pretty easy. Next. And now it's starting to look like a boxcar, and this is where I really started getting enthused about it. Next. Then I got to the part where you start adding doors, and again, this being my first one, I was going by the instructions. And one thing I've come to realize is wooden boxcars, at least if you're building them per the instructions of what comes in the kit, they don't quite have all of the door hardware and other stuff that you might be a little familiar with on plastic cars where it's all already cast in place. But I guess that's a little bit of the charm of a wooden car, and I'm sure if I do more of these, I'll probably find out more and start acquiring aftermarket pieces of door hardware and other stuff like that. But this one was my first one, and we'll see how it ends up. Next. So gluing on the roof, again, you have to take care, just like if you're working with anything that's wood where you're putting pieces together. I had to make sure that all of the overhang was exactly the same on all four sides, and where the pieces meet up in the middle, you have to make sure that the wood is shaved so that they're the same thickness, and that hides the seam as much as possible. But this part, I was enjoying it. Next. And then we got to the roof walk, and I had read about a couple different ways you could do it. Some people put all of the roof walk supports on the boxcar, making them a little oversized. Then you glue on the roof walk and you cut them down to size. But I wanted to try the other method where you glue them on the roof walk. And I used my slicer to make all of the little supports. Next. And then I measured out where each one had to go and put them in place. But what I had to do before putting them in place was use my file to put a little bit of a V in each one so that when it sat on the roof, it would actually conform to the peak in the roof. And I got most of them right. And the couple that aren't quite right, you can't really see. Next. So after I had done all of the wood construction, I went ahead and put my first coat of paint on. I knew I was going to be putting another one on afterwards, but this was to make sure that all the places where I had joined wood and glued stuff in place and everything was going to look okay. And if I had to do any final sanding, I could do it now before I put on the final coat of paint. Next. And this is where I started adding all the little details that come in the kit. And they did have some door hardware. And looking at photos of older box cars, some of it is reminiscent, but there's a little bit more that could be there. And then the corner braces, you have to bend them, and there's some other odds and ends that get stuck on. But this part was, again, a learning experience and kind of interesting. Next. Now for the grab irons, it came with a series that would go up on two ends of the box car on the sides. But I wanted more than that. I wanted some on the roof and I wanted some on the ends of the car. So I have a wire bender and I just found the right size that would make them match the ones that came with the kit. And I bent a bunch more grab irons that I put in other places. Next. And this was putting some of the ones I had made in place. The ones on the side of the car came with the kit. But I put some on the roof and some on the ends and some on the ends of the car. So I ended up probably making about half again as many as came with the kit. Next. And then I started using the rest of the Tichy hardware that came with it. And this is all for the break-end platform and the rods. I made the rod and the little brake relief valve stuff, but the little gray parts are what came with it. And that all went together pretty well. And then at the bottom, where it has the link for the support to go from the handbrake to the brakes, I glued a chain down there that went back underneath the bolster and looks like it attaches to one of the brake rods. Next. And then when I finished all of that stuff, I gave my second coat of paint on it, and that was to cover all of the stuff, which back then it looked like they pretty much did that with most of those cars. Now, you know, after a while, the paint would be coming off a lot of the fixtures and stuff. But I went ahead and covered everything, and it came out looking pretty good. Next. Then after putting a gloss coat on it, I started decaling it. And I've done decaling on plastic kits before. This was my first wooden one. And most of it went the same, but the decals that come with the kit, they were kind of old and they were very, very thin. I had a couple instances where it was starting to wrap around on itself and I'm going, no, 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 no. And I was just able to save it. And so I got all of them on in place. And then after putting a little bit of Microsol on them and letting it dry, I was able to slice through the decals where each board goes through. And for the most part, they came out okay. Next. Then after I was done with all the decaling, I went ahead and put 2 coats of clear matte on it. And I was almost done. So next picture. Then after I put on the trucks and the couplers, I used some pan pastels just to weather it lightly. It's not going to be on my layout, so it's not really going to get handled much. It's going to be on a display. So I wasn't worried about the pastels coming off or anything. Next. And that's how it came out. And I've learned so much from this first one that I know at least 10 different things that I do differently on the next one that I build. And probably I'd learn 10 more on that one. But it was a fun experience. Next slide. And that shows the break end. And I'm happy with how it came out, and I really did learn a lot while doing this one. And it won't be my last one. Although I have other things in the way right now, but I'll get back to doing a couple more of these in the near future. So that's my wooden boxcar. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. That came out fantastic. It's pretty amazing what you can do, especially with an old wood kit and a few modern features.
Yeah, especially for an old modeler. I know some people knock these out all the time and they look fantastic. In fact, one of them's here tonight. But being my first one, I'm happy that it came out good enough that I don't have to just, shove it back in a box somewhere and forget about it.
Yeah, let somebody else work on it in 20 years.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Are there any questions for Greg?
Truss rods.
Yes.
How did you make them?
Which part?
Truss rods.
I used filament line.
Hmm.
And I found out one thing after I made them, that when I was painting the bottom of it, the underside of it black, I should have used a much lighter touch because the paint kind of bubbled up on the fishing line. And you can actually see in this picture where it kind of gets thicker and thinner. I also found out that I followed the instructions, but they are attached a little too far inboard. They should come further out to line up with the nut bolt castings that I put on the ends, which on the next one I do, I'll take that into account.
Hey, Greg,
Mm-hmm.
it's Pat here. Just consider it mud on the lines. Don't worry about it.
You know what? I should go ahead and paint it like a dark brown or something and say, yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
do that.
I've sort of experienced the same thing with mine, and it seems to me it takes multiple coats to get it right, and when it does something like that, it's because it's had multiple coats of paint put on it.
Yeah, well, I put it on a little
real
too
thing.
thick, I think, is what happened. But like I say, I learned a lot building this one.
So I think what you're actually doing is prototypical.
Yeah, probably. It's like undercoating.
Yeah. All righty. Well, thanks, Greg. Any more
All right.
questions?
Thank you, Chris.
Yep. All right. Now, oh yeah. Oh crap, I'm up next. Okay. All right. Let's see. What did I bring? What did I put up tonight? Yes, the 24-foot ore car that I built up for our Conowingo models. Decided we needed an ore car on the in the roster. So I came up with this little guy. I compared a bunch of different ore cars, a lot of pictures. So it's not a specific ore car that we did with this kit, but it's a conglomeration of several different items. So there you have the underside. You've got basically it's a modified 24-foot flat car. It's got those two holes in the middle for the ore dump. And then you add the sides on there. And then you put the bracing on. And on the side pieces, they actually get an internal brace as opposed to two external brace, or an external brace and then the outer wall that you get on the ends. You see that here. And then it gets a piece of 1/8 inch to form the slides. And you see the slides going in there. And then had to do a little bit of 3D printing to get the ore dump and I called it a divider in the middle there. And so here's what the completed, basically the top piece of it comes out to look like. And of course, I had to come up with the stakes because looks like a lot of the ore cars had stakes on them. So then we went ahead and glued the. This is actually a conglomeration of two different cars that make up these pictures. So we took and put the top on there, put the stakes on the sides, and then what you're seeing is the dump from below, and also took a needle and fed the needle through to form basically the I guess you'd call it the actuator for the dump. And then there's another needle here that serves as your brake wheel on the end. And then you see the whole thing put together. You've got that divider back in the middle there. You've got the dump in the middle also with that. And there's the completed car. And so, of course, doing more research after the fact, I went up to Strasbourg one day and took a look at the ore car that they have up there. And there are some similarities to it. I may eventually end up putting some more pieces in this kit to make the two cars look more like each other. But I was pretty happy with the similarities between the two. All right, and then lastly, so we'll offer a special up on this one. The 24-foot ore car, which is HO scale. Now, between now and the Saturday, which is the 28th, you'll save $3 off on the 24-foot ore car. And you need no discount code. Just go ahead and place the order. And it's already got the discount figured in there. And excuse me. And we've actually been selling quite a few of the ore cars already. A lot of people buy them in multiples. So I think I've got, what did I just check? 6 or 8 in stock. So, all right. Any questions?
Yeah. Hey, Chris, what do you use for getting that color on the wood and weathering it? I noticed one of your slides, a few slides back, the overhead shot, the wood looked really good, really old.
I think on that I used probably the Hunterline driftwood.
Uh-huh.
And it may have gotten a coat of oh, what is it? The blue gray. There may be a little bit of blue gray splashed on there. One thing I'll do too is if I don't want to add too much color to it, is I'll use some of the Vitero stains. I've got the aged barnwood. So it's kind of the Vitero equivalent of driftwood, but it's not. It's a little bit more subtle.
Okay. Yeah, because it almost looks like it has a brown reddish tone to it.
Yeah, I don't think I used anything odd with that one.
Okay. Well, it looks
Yeah,
good.
I see what you're talking about with that.
It came out nice.
Thanks. But yeah, it's got a lot of teachy details on there. It's a couple 3D printed parts. With this particular kit, I used the KD Andrews trucks.
So,
right.
So Chris, are the stake pockets, is that a Tichy product?
The pockets themselves are, yes.
Okay.
With some 1/32 strip wood.
This is Dave here. Yeah, just really love the weathering and the look of it, especially in the scene there. It feels like you could really be there, and it looked really close to the actual ore card that you showed there.
Yeah, thanks. Any more questions? All righty. I guess we will move on then. Up next is Phil.
Howdy, Chris. Thanks. So this was actually kind of for me. I'm doing this layout where I'm going to have about 50 spots. Figure 5 to 6 trains staged with 5 cars each. That's another 30. Figure the 50 spots, you need 30 to 35 cars. some yard cars. So I'm up to 75 to 80 cars I need. So I'm really in the process now of beginning to put together a number of cars. One of the things, obviously, because I have a beat loader and a beat factory, is I need beat cars. So these are actually from McGregor's book, Steinbach Country Narrow Gauge, which is around about the narrow gauge railroads that ran north of Monterey up to Santa Cruz. And this is actually the Pajaro Valley Railroad, which is the area that I'm modeling. And these are their beat cars, which were actually built on early Carter Brothers flat cars, and have a loader side, etc. So jump to the next slide. So this is my rendition of a beat car. It's actually 3D printed. The parts are all 3D printed and painted and then assembled. The deck is obviously real wood. The spreaders inside are there because they actually have weights, which allows me to have very good weight for the car. The coupler pockets are KD5 pockets, and it takes standard Bachmann trucks. Go ahead and jump to the next slide. So these are basically all the pieces that you print out. I mean, not all the pieces. I think there's another end that's not shown there. But basically, those are the sides, the frame, those dividers in there. Actually, the front and the back there are there, and then the dividers that go in the middle. So you jump to the next slide. Obviously, I put the wire in, and it needs to be painted. But basically, you can kind of see the sides and see that it kind of has a bit of a wood look to it. And I think looks pretty reasonable for something that's 3D printed. I can produce in relatively mass volumes. This one hasn't been lettered yet. It has to be painted, finished off, and then it has to be actually finally assembled. That was the next step, and I need to put brake rigging on it, but it'll kind of all come together to be, I think, a pretty interesting set of cars. I need to do about 16 of these, so the idea of doing something that can be mass produced seemed to fit in very well. So that's one kind of car I'm building. The other is taking commercial cars and essentially just weathering them to make them look reasonable on the layout. So if you jump to the next slide, this is kind of a process I'm following. These are Bachmann ON30 freight cars. You kind of see there are three different types here. There are three, the two on the right and the one in the middle on the left. The decks have been painted. You'll see that when those get darkened and that, they really blend together. The 110 car actually is one that I bought, I think, at a train show, and it came with one of those Banta wood decks. So I had to finish that, and I was trying to make them look good. One of the things I wanted to be able to do is have them look good when you put loads on them, etc. So one of the things you'll notice is that none of them have any wheels on them at this point. So if you jump to the next slide, one of the things I do with these cars is I just take the wheels off and then cut on a piece of glass narrow strips of masking tape and wrap the wheels at the running surface with that masking tape. So that way you actually have the metal on metal when you run the wheels. You get a little bit of paint there on the inside flange, but that doesn't touch that often. What this does is allows you to paint and then weather the wheel sets. And then when you get to the very end, when you're all done, just pull the tape off and you can put the cars back on the track. So go ahead and jump to the next slide. So this is basically the process I do with wheels. You can see I'm doing a bunch of cars at once. Some of them are Bachmann. There actually are a few AccuCrafts in there. Those are the wheel sets that have brakes integrated with them. So the first thing I do is mount them here. They're just mounted with 1-inch drywall screws. This is some old wood I had. Just screw them down, and this way you can go around and get them painted. You'll be able to roll the wheels around and get them lined up to paint both sides of the wheels. Flat black. I took the advice that Bernard's going to give us in a couple of weeks when he talks about painting figures, which is take your spray can and put it in hot water. Let it sit in hot water and get warm. We have pretty hot water, so put it in that 130-degree water for about 5 minutes and let it warm up. And then really, really shake it. And that way you get a nice fine atomized spray. And you kind of see what it looks like there. Go ahead and jump to the next slide. So I weathered, these are 2 weathering compounds. These are Doc Brown's new rust and weathered old rust. And so basically what I do is when you put those away, when you buy them, they have alcohol in them. Mine all dry out, which is actually not a bad thing. Is what I do is I use an alcohol bottle with a squirt top on it, squirt a little bit of alcohol into a cup like this, get the brush wet with the alcohol, and just go into that Doc Brown's, just get a little bit of the rust and bring it over and then put it in here and stir it in. And you actually can create this rusting. And then so we jump to the next slide, basically use the brush on the right, 2 brushes on the right and left to just go in and basically randomly weather everything. And what I do is I actually weather the wheel sets by putting a little bit on the wheel sets to make sure the wheel sets get weathered. Go ahead and jump to the next slide. So this is actually the same wheel sets then after they got sprayed with Dulca with a matte clear. So basically it takes out that brightness that you get with chalk, because when you put chalk and alcohol, the same thing, it's fairly bright. But when you paint it with dull coat, it actually tones it way down and makes it look like real rusted metal. So go ahead and jump to the next slide. So the next thing is that I had these cars and I want to be able to handle them and paint them and weather them, etc. So what I decided to do, and this is one of the great uses I think for 3D printers, is I decided to make those 3D bases there that you can actually connect just like where the trucks went, but they allow you to pick the car up, hold it, and then when it's wet, it needs to dry, you can actually just set it down. So go ahead and jump to the next slide. So this then this is what those look like after they've been weathered. So what you can see is I've used black chalk. Now, first thing I did is I washed everything down with India ink and alcohol. That gives a little bit of tooth then, and then did the chalk. And you notice the chalk, I've tried to keep it out of the center because it reflects the fact that you would typically have a low to the center, so that would not be as weathered as the outside edges. But you can kind of see the different types of cars there and what they look like after you put the weathering on them, the chalk weathering. So go ahead and jump to the next slide. I think we have yeah, this is actually them turned upside down, so you can see the and I'm going to put the brake wheels on at the end. It's just a lot easier than risking them while you're doing this. So you can see again those little holders. Those take about an hour and a half to print. So next slide, I think it's just the design of those. They were designed in FreeCAD, so you build these little simple tools in 3D printing, and it's really easy then to go print them. And I'll put these probably up on Thingiverse. I'll do that, and I'll give everybody a link to it. Go ahead and jump to the next slide. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about here was these standard cars. So basically, the Bachmann has produced 2 South Pacific Coast cars because my railroad actually would interface with the South Pacific Coast if it were still narrow gauge. I've decided to take advantage of that and use that as a way to have cars. So what you're seeing here is actually there are 2 cars, or the 128 and the 428. And so what you can see here is that in that larger picture, you see that the 128 with a little bit of boxcar red paint from AccuColor has actually become 126. And if you notice on the other car on the left side, what was 428 is now 423. So it allows me to take 2 cars and actually get 3 cars out of each for my layout. I think that's the end of it. So I'll throw it back to you, Chris. Oh, actually, I guess I do have a couple of slides. These were some of the loads on the flat cars there. I think that's the last slide.
Yes, it is.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, that those bases are pretty neat. It might help out a lot for people that build a lot of cars. Are there any questions for Phil? Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Phil.
Thanks.
And we'll move on to Jeff Jordan. Yep, Jeff.
Here I am.
All right. I think these are a holdover from last month. I think you've got some cabooses on here.
Yep. Yep. Since we were doing rolling stock and we had had so many segments recently on cabooses, I thought it would be fun to pull out a set of cabooses I had done that micro scale quite some time ago, had done a sheet called Lehigh Valley Cabooses because the Lehigh Valley Railroad had, by my count, at least 6 different paint schemes on this particular model of the standard Northeast Caboose. And so I decided to do a bunch of the different schemes on the Northeast Caboose. And so this one is looking nice and new. And this would have been about 1939, 1940. So it's lettered for their premier passenger train, the route of the Black Diamond. And then, though it's basically the standard Proto 2000 caboose, it's been altered by adding things like the hoops on the top of the ladders. The railings have been, and the edge of the steps have been painted to match the prototype, and of course, scale decals. But I got several more of the same car coming in different versions. So next slide. There you go. This is after the Black Diamond had been retired, so no more passenger service, and they altered the scheme a little bit. It's basically the same color car, but all the appliances now are yellow rather than white. So I've made the appliances yellow, added the hoops on the ladders, and again, the micro scale decal, including that distinctive safety placard, which only appeared in 1 year, as it says, make safety a habit in 1960. And so there's your 1960 Lehigh Valley caboose. Again, the very nice Proto 2000 caboose. Oh, and all of these have had their wheels replaced with Katie wheels as well. And then there should be another one. Yep. And again, the same style caboose, but this is a little later in the 60s when the Pennsylvania Railroad acquired majority control of the Lehigh Valley Railroad. And as far as the railroad was concerned, it was actually a good deal because the Pennsylvania Railroad gave them a lot of support. One of the things they did, a fellow who worked for the railroad told me, is they received boxcar loads full of Pensy Tuscan paint. So the difference is subtle, but this caboose is painted Pensy Tuscan, and then in a later lettering scheme with the Lehigh Valley flag, the different style lettering, yellow safety appliances again, and the yellow stripe. But same car repainted, yet another version. There would be more versions of this, but I didn't model the later ones. They would have done one, for example, in Penn Central Green, which I never particularly cared for, but that was in the set too. Next slide. Now here's an older Lehigh Valley caboose. Those of you who read Railroad Model Craftsman extensively probably recognize the name Chuck Youngkirth. Chuck did a ton of articles that appeared in Railroad Model Craftsman, and this was a product of one of his articles where he told you how you could take an MDC roundhouse caboose and modify it to resemble a Lehigh Valley wood caboose. Basically, the only thing left of the original MDC roundhouse car is the sides, but the roof is replaced, the cupola is replaced, the trucks are replaced. You can see it has a K brake system, railings and ladders, and the unusual metal braces on the cupola. And it's got working marker lights in there long before they did them with LEDs. So there's a light bulb inside the car and a battery and a power switch so you can illuminate the marker lights. But this would have preceded the metal cabooses you saw earlier. And they stayed in service for a very long time after the metal cabooses took all the mainline service. These continued to be available in branch line service because cabooses don't travel in interchange, so they could keep things like arch bar trucks and even wooden frames long after interchange prohibited that. But This is based on Chuck Youngkurth's article in Railroad Model Craftsman. Then did I send you one more, Chris? Did you get the boxcar as well?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Then that's what I got for you. Cabooses for our caboose theme.
All right. Is that right? That weight 395,000 pounds?
You know, I don't know whether I stole that from someplace because that I needed a weight decal. And yeah, I agree with you. That seems extremely heavy for a caboose.
It was their experiment in grams.
Yeah, because it's got the appropriate date decal on the other side. So I don't know whether I stole that from a larger car, a heavier car, and used the decals to give it some maintenance decals as well. But I agree with you. It's probably not a 395,000 pound caboose.
That'd be a heck of a thing to haul around.
Probably could carve off a zero and get closer to the right
Yeah,
number.
probably. But, all righty. Are there any questions for Jeff?
Yeah, just on the weight, I have a copy here in front of me of the Lee Valley one, and the weight was 44,400.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, so pretty much take the zero off the end, and you're a lot closer.
Alrighty. Any more questions for Jeff?
Yeah, hey Jeff, on the northeast cabooses, how did you make the loops on the top of the ladders? Just
It
dead
was
wire?
it was an aftermarket part that they sold at the time. As you might
Oh.
remember, these Proto 2000 cabooses,
Mhm.
Lifelike cranked them out, and they made zillions of them. And so a variety of aftermarket parts were available at the time, including
Ah,
those hoops at the top of the ladders.
okay. Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, they worked out very nicely. The model that came from the manufacturer was missing those.
Yeah, not for the Western Maryland ones, but that's okay.
Well, there's actually remarkable how many variations there are in that northeastern caboose.
Oh, I know.
Whether they had two end windows, one end window, they made a version with round end windows, uh, with and without the rain gutters, two-step or three-step. But at the time, this was the nicest version of the northeastern caboose you could get. Today, guys like Rapido have brought out extremely precise northeastern cabooses. But on the other hand, I think I paid about $20 for those, and the
Yeah,
Rapido caboose is at least 100.
yeah, the Proto 2Ks, they were almost like the Northeast cabooses themselves. Everybody could use them and they were cheap and reliable.
Yep, and a nice model.
Yep.
Once you pulled off the wipers for the lights, which acted like brakes.
All right, nice job, Jeff.
Thank you.
I would help to have myself unmuted. Are there any more questions for Jeff? Alrighty, well, thanks, Jeff,
Thank
for
you.
sharing. And next up, Bill Stimson. He said he was traveling, so I'm not sure if he's up. Are you up, Bill?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, cool.
Travel got canceled.
Oh, no.
So these are the first rolling stock kits I've ever built. This one is an HON3 rail line boxcar that the decals just disintegrated when I tried to put them on. So I found that I had some ones I bought from NMRA for the Gory and Defeated. Figured, what the heck, those would make nice ones on this boxcar. Also the first rolling stock I've ever tried to airbrush. So the color is Army Painter Chaotic Red. It looks pretty good for a rail boxcar red. So, and of course, I decided the number was pi, mostly 3.142, in case nobody noticed the number. Next one. Oh, there's another picture of that. Okay.
Nope.
Actually was a lot of fun. They gave you a lot of stuff to build on these things. All those grab irons are, I had to bend into the right shape and was quite the exercise in small parts, which for an N scaler is not unusual. Next one. So here's the same manufacturer. This is one of their idler flats. And I just went to town on the deck trying to just turn it into the sloppiest looking thing I've ever built. Next. Yeah, oh, this is one of a set of 3 N scale box cars. They're Baltimore and Ohio wagon top box cars, and the sides are brass, and so are most of the details. The ladders and some of the brake equipment were white metal castings, but everything else was brass. And unfortunately, this is the only set of decals that worked out, and I really don't like the way they turned out. You can't, I mean, even 3 times of putting the Microsoft Sol and set on, they still didn't disappear into the, so, but also the grab irons are bent. The door hinge or door slide on the bottom is white metal casting as well. They were interesting to build. The next one should also be, yeah, it's another picture of that same one. It turned out okay. I'll get some better decals for the other 2. Next, and probably last, yeah, this is a N scale rail scale models 24-foot gondola. I'm not real keen on the model. It's the underbody is very thick compared to what I would have expected for an underbody for something this small. But, for a first time trying to do an N-scale freight car that wasn't ready to run, it didn't turn out too badly. I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, is this an RS laser kit maybe?
Yeah, RS laser kit, yes.
Yeah, because I don't think Steve does rolling stock, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got the wrong RS.
Yeah. Yeah, I looked it up. I was like, this doesn't look right. So I Googled it and well, it's Phoenix now, but
Yes.
RS laser. Yep. Well,
Yeah.
it came out all right.
It came out all right. I just thought that the underbody, it's one laser cut piece for the base of it, and it's just like it's so thick, and it just doesn't look right to me. But like I said, it was the first kit I'd built, so for an N scale rolling stock, so who knows?
Yeah. Alrighty. Are there any questions for Bill?
Yeah, hey Bill, the brass wagon top, who made that?
Quality Craft.
Quality Craft. Okay. I really like the gory and defeated decals on that first boxcar. I think they look perfect on it.
Yeah, after I put them on, I really liked the way they turned out. I was annoyed when the ones that came with it just shredded in when I tried to pull them off the backing.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people tell me if you have an old kit, if you spray some gloss clear on the decals before you slide them off, it might work better, but I think it's a hit and miss thing. And
Yeah,
fortunately, the ones I had, they were really soft, but they held together. So
I have this micro scale liquid decal film that I put over the top of that one and the ones for the B&O box cars. And like I said, I got 1 out of 3 of the sets from the B&O box cars. So, I don't know how old they were, and I don't know how much heat they were in. We don't know where they were stored. I got them in a swap meet. I actually think I got them at the N-Scale convention in Kansas City last year.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you do the other two cars, if they come out a lot better, you can always go back to that one and scrape them off, repaint it, and put on
Yeah.
different ones.
I've got some decals coming from Tishy that I think will do the job, and we'll see how those come out.
Okay. Well, they all look nice.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions for Bill? All righty. Well, thank you, Bill, for sharing once again. All right. The upcoming shows. The next two shows are Anything Goes shows, April 22nd, with a deadline of April 19th. May 27th show has a deadline of May 24th. So please get those photos into me. And in June, on June 24th, we have a Scratch Builds Challenge. So whatever you can do to fit into that category would be greatly appreciated. That show is June 24th. Please get those photos to me by June 21st. Also, we're accepting nominations for challenge show ideas for the next year. And email those submissions to me at railrunner130@hotmail.com. Ideas that we have so far. I don't know that all of them are going to make the cut, but these are some of the thoughts as ideas that we've used in the past. Tools, track work, interiors, holiday and winter, dilapidated stuff. So whatever you can fit into, basically beat it up and send it to us. Harvest, Halloween, oddities, that sort of thing. Those all seem to fit into a pretty interesting show. Then there's locomotives, there's rolling stock, which we have done tonight. Scratch builds and kit bashes. And then backdrops, layouts, dioramas. And then vehicles and water. So if you have any other nominations or ones that you think would not go over so well, please drop me an email. Let me know what you think, and we'll be sure to get that in the upcoming voting for the next challenges. So anyway, thank you for watching, and thanks to those that participated. So with that, I will stop sharing and turn it back over to you, Phil.
Super. Thanks very much, Chris. That was great. As always, it's a great to see what everybody's modeling. So with that, we now move on to our kind of final formal segment probably for tonight, which is actually a fairly long layout visit. This is David from David Malott. David actually took some videos of his club layout, which is a modular club, ON30 modular club. And so we've got some, so I'm going to go ahead and let David talk if he'd like to about some of the things we're seeing and some of the modules. So with that, let me go ahead and start sharing here.
This is my newest module that I'm building. It's a Florida river slump scene. It's under construction. So this is the first opportunity that I've had to actually put it into use. So every time we set up, it's a different setup. I'm not going to put it up the same way twice. So it's pretty challenging to do. They draw it all up beforehand. And sometimes I think the longest one they've had is 75 feet, maybe. I can't forget exactly. So some of them are quite large. We set up 4 times a year at the land. And one for
three of them are for 1 day only. One of them is for 2 days, so that's in a different building, and we usually have a really big setup for that. We have one of the modules that actually climbs the height. I think it climbs a foot. I forget exactly. Again, I don't have all that in front of me. It climbs about a foot. We call it tanglefoot, and so we end up with a 2-level layout. It's all kinds of different sidings and so on. This is one of my moguls that you see running here. I have Bunami in it, so I have 5 steam engines with Bunamis and 2 rail buses. And this is a big, huge stressor here. So in the background, you can see there's an engine house, and that is those 2 modules of mine. It's a yard scene over there. We'll go through that. So a lot of this is based on Florida. Some of it is Colorado themed, so it's kind of a Colorado, Florida. Makes it strange layout.
Hey, David, I think
we're losing your voice.
I think your internet's really unstable, David. We're barely hearing you. May want to jump out and come back in.
I don't know if is this any better? Am I not close enough, maybe?
Yeah, a little better. Kind of like the microphone's bad.
Is that any better?
That's better there.
Okay. This is some of the Florida-based scenes here.
Yep.
Hey, David, I noticed all those little adjusters on the bottoms of the PVC that's holding the legs up. Are those pretty easy to work with and to get everything adjusted right?
So, I'm not sure which ones you saw. If they're these high bolts, they're relatively easy. These are my modules here. You see, I have one leg and I have casters on the bottom of my legs. And that's basically how we adjust the height. And they work. The casters are way better. You know, I keep trying to improve the way things go together and work. And that's one of my innovations is doing that with the casters. So it's much easier to line up the modules when you have casters on the bottom. And they have a long, I think it's 1.5 inch long screw on the bottom of those. I buy those from Lowe's, and they work really good. Also, the joint here, no, I'm not at least. I didn't put it on. But, so, you know, if I just, in the future, I'm going to do a segment on my module here on the swamp scene. I have 6-inch plates that go on the end of my modules that butt up against the end of the module. So all you do is slide the modules together and light up the track. It is pretty typical procedure for modular groups to use plates that overlap between the modules, and those things are a pain in the butt, and I don't know why we've used them for as long as we have. This works out really well. You get the track lined up, and the trains will go, they'll go across as much as an 8-inch gap between the modules. Much better system. So, two of my modules together. You can see they sync really well with the Blue Nami. These are all wood cars. The outside frame cars are scratch built cars that I made. and the rest of the cars were stuff that I bought off of eBay, pulled all the parts off of them and kind of sanded them down with 80 grit paper, and then took some alcohol and egging ink and weathered them all out. So I just got them running. I weighted them down, put 80 couplers and trucks under them, and they run really well. This is another layout. I think this is in Jacksonville. One of the few I go up to Jacksonville. The club is actually out of Jacksonville, Florida. It's the First Coast Model Railroad group. They come down to the land is where I meet up with them, but once a year I go up to Jacksonville where they have a big meet there. So this is climbing to a second level here. This is one of the members' beer thing. This is one of the really big layouts. This is over 50 feet long. When it's working right, it's on 5 or 6 frames at a time. Passing siding.
We're losing you completely on your voice, David.
Pardon me?
Your voice is fading out and fading in, and
Yeah, better if you turn your video off. There's your bandwidth issues, I think.
I'm running on my phone, so I don't know if there's a way to compete.
Yeah, if it's on the cellular network, that's probably why.
I'm just having a regular mic.
It's cool, very cool, different kinds of scenes.
This is representing Silver Springs, a big tourist attraction in Florida where the water is crystal clear. For those people who don't know, they have glass bottom boats. This is actually this is one of the other people in the group, but that building is one of my buildings. It's going to go on my swamp layout.
I like the idea of having a grade in a modular layout. That's the one thing they're almost always missing.
And it's as far as I know, we're the only ones that do it. I have never seen another modular group that goes up and down to actual different levels. They might go up and down in between modules, but I've never seen, where it has a different level.
Yeah, that's a whole nother category of interest.
It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing this. This is one of the other members that I put Blue Nami in this. Runs really well.
David, what brand of boxcars are those?
Those are all boxcars. They're the beer series of cars. All the different beers. So the coaling tower, it just went across my yard modular. The cooling tower is something that I scratch built. A lot of these buildings they're one-off buildings that one of the members does laser cut stuff. So he laser cut some of these stations. We have return loops when they work right. Our biggest Achilles heel seems to be the Digitrack system. So this is my yard modules here. So they're two 6-foot long modules with a 30-inch centerpiece. And this is where the track comes up to the end of the modules. I have two special pins that go in each one of the modules, and they line right up. I split with 7 tracks, and they line right up and run perfectly. Well, this is a 10-wheeler and a consolidation, again with the Blue Nami in them, and you double-headed pulling this log crane. There's a hotel there. Is one of the members completely scratch built that. Well, most of the buildings there, the gas station. This is the engine that I featured the build on New Tracks. This is still about the condition. Well, it's gone past this now, but it's still not done. I had too many other projects going on right now.
I was going to say, I like the weathering job on that thing.
Yeah. It's just where I sanded the paint off to do stuff with it. Too many projects, not enough time. So almost everybody's got someplace got a strangely themed train. So almost everybody in the club's got got these rail buses, and it's at the end of the day we get them all together and run them, and we'll have, I don't know, 10 of them running at a time, something like that. So this is one of the that was a diagram of one of the layouts. Again, this is the one in Jacksonville. It's over 50 feet long. I don't remember the exact specifications of this. So there's the goose parade is what they call it. Oops. That was one of the vendors there.
Is that a ship there on the right, like mocking up a ship, or a possible island?
I'm not sure what you're looking at. There's ships and that's a mock-up of a ship, a paddle wheel boat.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
It's easy to get a new tracks layout visit made of your layout, a friend's layout, or a
So-
layout you visit. Please take a 4 to 8 minute overview video of the layout and take 20 to 30 still images. Send an email to Phil at the address on the screen and you will get a cloud drive to upload the videos and photos to.
So there you go, David. Now you seem a lot clearer. You may want to be able to turn your video back on. See if it'll work.
So I'm on. Yeah. Geez, I hope people can hear that. I didn't know it was going to be that much of a problem. I've talked on this before, not had any problems. So
Yeah, sometimes it
Great
just
now.
it's their computers. It's great now. That was
Okay.
very good. That was very
Thank
good.
you.
Any questions for David? So how many events a year do you typically do?
So at DeLand, we do 4 a year, every 3 months. And then Jacksonville has one they do. The club is actually out of Jacksonville. DeLand is just north of Orlando. So it's about a 2-hour drive. So 140 miles, something like that. So they come down to DeLand. Somehow they've hooked up with the promoter from the show here local. And so they come down, and I met them about 15 years. And so I've been doing this with them kind of on and off for about 15 years.
Cool.
I was out of it for a little bit, and then I've been back in for about 5, and I've gotten into it pretty heavy duty. I've refined the yard quite a bit, made an extension there, added more sidings, widened it out, all that kind of stuff. So, so now I'm building some more modules, something of more detail. The river swamp scene is, I'm anticipating a lot of detail. It's a much bigger module. It's a 8-foot module by 33 inches wide, I believe. Barry. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I spent quite a bit of time 10 years of doing, of being a guide on the rivers, a kayak guide on the rivers. So I want to bring a lot of that detail into the river scene.
David,
Excellent.
what's the primary method of moving the modules? Does everybody carry their own, or do you have a trailer for some of them? How's that
So
work?
what they rent trailers, believe it or not.
Okay, they rent them.
Yeah, they rent trailers every time they come down. Why they didn't buy their own trailer, except nobody's got any storage area up there.
Yeah.
So, so they usually rent 2 trailers and load them up with modules and bring them down and the day before and set up, and they stay locally and in hotels and so on, and set up for the operation, and then we use 3 of the meets we only have for 1 day, and then 1 meet we have for 2 days. So, yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it looks nice. You guys got a lot of modules, and I love seeing those long trains.
And some young people too.
That's the biggest problem is, the group's getting older, and we haven't got new members, and I just don't have any. I can't seem to get anybody local that's interested. I have one guy, and one of the guys that used to be local passed away. So I'm the main one in the area here that's doing this stuff. So it's a hustle every time we set up.
So one of the questions in the chat was, must be tough to travel with the trestle. Did they do anything special for the trestle? It was the big module, and
yeah,
it is. Yeah.
The trestle, they have sort of a box thin plywood box that slides down over it. It's on casters, so it makes it a lot easier to deal with it, to roll it around. But yeah, it's tricky with that, and you have to be careful when you're loading it, of course, on the trailer, that you pick it up and clear everything when you put it into the enclosed U-Haul trailer. So
and the other question was, it was ON30.
Yes.
Yes.
Dave here. Also, I think Bill asked this question in the chat about your tabletops, if they're based on like banquet tables or any standard. Are you guys using like a Fremo standard or?
No. So some of they're all handmade modules. Some of them are sort of a plywood configuration. Mine are very simple. They're 2-inch foam with a 1x6 perimeter on them, and a brace or 2 depending on how big they are, and glued together with Gorilla Glue, the stuff that foams up, makes them extremely strong. The yard modules are somewhere around, I built them somewhere around 2009, something like that. So they're old, and they've stood up, held up extremely well. Had really good luck with them. They're lightweight, easy to move around. They're pretty tough.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. It's super cool. I didn't think about just the foam, but I like the lightweight. This is like 5 or 6 ply, so this thing is a beast. It'll fit in the car, but I like how light your modules look over there.
Oh, so they're extremely easy to work with, and if you can make modifications relatively easy, if you want to do detail, a water scene or any type of ditch or anything, it's easy to carve out the foam. You can, if you want to have layers higher, then you just build up your layers and carve them down, which you could see somewhat in my swamp river scene there. You can see how I built that up and carved it down. So it's, to me, it's the only way to go. Very simple, very simple. The foam's gotten kind of expensive, but to me, so I use dimensional wood, and I go up, to a better grade of wood, which makes it easier to put everything together because the dimensions are more accurate. The wood's less likely to warp, and the stuff just fits together better. So I'll go into it further. I'm gonna put together a piece on my new module, and it'll show I make up my own pockets for my legs, and which are separate, and then I screw them into the module. So I clearance all that stuff, and then screw it in the module. It makes the legs slide in and out better, much tighter. And the other trick is what I was talking about is my plates that go on the end of the modules where the track bolts to the engine, goes up to the engine modules. I have 6-inch plates with track on it. So if there's a problem, they get damaged at the end of the track gets damaged at the end of the module, you just replace the plate at the end, and you can detail it out and just make it blend in with the rest of the works extremely well. Beats the crap out of putting those, they use those, depending on who it is, 3-inch or 6-inch long plates that cover the gap there, and then have slider joiners trying to slide those joiners in. I mean, but I'll go into that at a later date. It's so much better. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that was very good. Thanks much. And again, for anyone else, if you'd like to do a video, go ahead and just take the little video and send it to me with some pictures. Dave will tell you it was really easy. Well, I think that's probably enough for this evening. We're hitting right at 6 o'clock here on the West Coast, 9 o'clock on the East Coast. So I'm going to ask Father Ron to join us real briefly to help us close with a little bit of a comment about the wonderful universe we live in.
As modelers and makers, we recognize the intricacy and beauty of our world. Creator of the world, we thank you for the vision and artistry you have given us. Continue to bless us with your creative spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Father Ron. We appreciate it, and certainly appreciate being reminded that, without this amazing world we live in, we wouldn't have anything to model. So that brings us pretty much to the end of our program for this evening, though we do have a caboose. And this was kind of, I thought, a fun caboose because it's something that I always thought I did once and I always wanted to do again. So go ahead.
Who knew trains can go on boats?
Well, thanks for joining us this evening. I hope you had a great program. And as Jim Kello once said, if you didn't learn something this evening, you weren't actually paying any attention. So with that, we'll bid you adieu and have a great rest of the week. And we'll see you next week, same time, same station.
So Phil, I want to thank you for putting that together. That was real nice.